Here at Masterbooks, we are dedicated to help you disciple your children and develop a strong faith as a family. With pro-Bible homeschool curriculum and beautiful books that honor God as Creator. We offer online courses to help your family worship and serve God. You will also find morning baskets and devotionals for the whole family. Our mission is ink on paper to touch eternity, and we have been publishing Christian books for this purpose since 1975. Find your pro-Bible homeschool curriculum at masterbooks.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Masterbooks podcast. I'm Jennifer White, and I have Angela Odell with me here today. We are talking about America's Story, Masterbooks American History Curriculum Series. We've talked to Angela a lot about math lessons for a living education, but we realized we really haven't talked about history very much. So obviously, Angela is a prolific curriculum writer, and we are so grateful that she's partnering with us to partner with you to make sure your children get a biblical education. And so thank you, Angela. Thanks for everything you're doing. Thanks for America's Story.
You're welcome. It's been so much fun. You're going to find that history is my passion. I love math. I do. I really do love math, but history is just, it lights my fire. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Well, we're grateful, and you have lit that fire for many students because of the narrative that you use within your series, America's Story series. So let's talk about, how is America's Story different from any other homeschool American history curriculum?
Well, I think the biggest difference is the fact that we actually take 3 years to cover the entire scope. And of course, we can study history until we're blue in the face, and we're not going to learn it all. But it is more fun to take a little bit more leisurely stroll down through those stories and be able to flesh out the real life stories of the people who made up our history. So I really like the fact that I can allow that time and that care to those characters.
Yes.
I'd say that's probably the biggest difference, is actually being able to get to know the people in history a little bit better, make friends in history.
Absolutely. So you have 3 volumes. Let's go back and talk about what age group you wrote this for.
Well, I originally wrote it for pretty much anybody who liked history. But with Masterbooks, it's marketed towards 3rd grade through like 6th, I think. Mm-hmm. And it's very appropriate for children that age and for families of children that age. So that's very accurate. Mm-hmm. I've also had parents ask me, is it okay if I use it with my junior high student? Is it, I'm like, go for it. It can definitely be a base for, where you learn just kind of the basics, and then you could add on to it where there's a point of interest. And if you want to do a couple books in a year, you can. I mean, it's extremely flexible. It's Absolutely. Meant to be a very flexible tool.
And a lot of parents are using it with multiple ages, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's a big thing, because when I actually started that series, that America's Story 1 was my first book I ever wrote, and I had absolutely no intention of ever having it published.
Okay.
Period. It was like not even on the radar. And it's a funny story. But God had other plans, and I wrote that with my daughter, my youngest daughter at the time. She was 6. I had her in mind. And so that's where that all started. I can't remember your original question before I got distracted by my story.
No, we were just talking about what age it's for, what grade levels it's for, and that it can be used across many ages. If you are a large homeschool family and you want to use America's Story as an American history subject,
multiple ages, everybody together, definitely, most definitely.
Right. So let's then talk about the segments that you've written it in. We've got 3 books, the volume 1, 2, and 3, and then teacher guides to go with each one.
Yes. So the first one is the explores through, it's kind of like right before the Civil War upheaval began. So I really don't focus that much on that specific topic in first volume. So it's more focused on like the Alamo and the War of 1812 and those kind of early events of the early 1800s, like so leading up to the Civil War. And I think I actually cover the gold rush in that one too. Yes, I do. Okay. So that's kind of that content in that one. And then book 2 starts, or volume 2 starts kind of and just in that whole upheaval time of the country heading up to the Civil War. I really focus on Abraham Lincoln for a couple of weeks. I focus on what he stood for and how he changed and how his perspective evolved through the years, and just a lot of different things. So the Missouri Compromise, all of the things that led up to the Civil War. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go into massive detail on all of the political things that were involved in that whole time period. But I want the children to understand that really underneath it all, the Civil War was about 2 major issues: state rights and slavery, mostly slavery, and the states' rights to have slavery. But I really just want them to understand that foundational understanding of why our nation actually fought that horrible of a war within our own borders, brother against brother. And that is a difficult topic to cover for children. So that whole thing was bathed in prayer. We'll just put it that way. I was writing that. It was very difficult to bring down to their level without it being too sketchy, without it being too much information. Very difficult.
Right.
So
right. And you're known for writing unedited history. So yes, you helped it be palatable for the age group that you've written it for, but there's there's a lot of that editing history to be what we want it to be when it really just is what it is. So let's talk about that a minute.
Yes, history is history. You cannot change it. Our responsibility is to learn from it. And you cannot learn from history when you whitewash it or remove things from it that you find objectionable. If you don't learn from it, history does tend to, I'm not going to say repeat itself, but it does follow that same type of cycle of behaviors. We're seeing it in big time in the forgetting of what happens when one person or one group of people are given the right to determine the value of another group of people of their lives. We're seeing this massive, this really a cultural crisis over just the abortion and all of the things that are happening in our world that are really stem from that. If somebody would just go and study the Holocaust and how Hitler had that much say over a whole group of people's lives, it's chilling. But when we remove those things from our history, we don't learn from them. So that's one of the big reasons why I have such a burden for children. And the America Story series is written for children. And my whole goal is to introduce them to some of the heroes in our history, to tell them about some of those really horrible human blunders and things that are very much a mar on our own history. They're there. But to also put it in a setting of, what can we learn from this, and how can we see God's hand throughout all of this, and how he has used everything that has happened in our history as a furthering of his plan and will. How can we see that?
Well, one of the things that we hear a lot about all of your work, but especially America's Story, is how well the students retain the information because of the way you present it. So let's talk a little bit about that, how you've designed it so that there is retention. There is, at the end of the whole thing, they are glad they studied.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I started writing these, I was very much using several major factors from the Charlotte Mason method. Mm-hmm. And I always, whenever I say that, I always say right off the bat, just I have never been a Charlotte Mason purist, mm-hmm. but I do appreciate quite a few of the major elements of her method. And one of them is oral narration. So my goal when I designed this program was to create something that worked with the students' attention span. And it's very similar to the short lessons in the math lessons for mm-hmm. living education. So that, they're short lessons and they get progressively longer as the student gets older. But I'm a very firm believer in that we are always teaching our children. We are always teaching them something. Mm-hmm. There's never a time in our interactions with our children that we aren't teaching them something. So most available curriculum that was available when my kids were younger, I had to either remove half of it because it was just too much, mm-hmm. or I had to pretty much rewrite it so that it was aligned with my worldview. Mm-hmm. So my goal was to create something that I didn't have to edit because I wrote it, because I knew it was going to have everything that it needed, right, and that it worked with their attention span. So mm-hmm. when we give our children too much, when we're expecting them to sit and listen to hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of us reading, or big thick textbooks with all these, fill in the blanks, and there's nothing wrong per se with that type of learning, but when it's too much, when it goes way beyond their attention span, it literally teaches them to turn their brains off. Mm. And so over and over and over, you're telling them this is what learning looks like, and they're getting discouraged and just shutting down. So when you work with their attention span and then gradually grow that attention span, it keeps their brain on. It's like Randy says, keeps them in good brain. It doesn't turn the brain off or go into bad brain and get a bad attitude about it. It stays in the good. And when you focus on real stories and you tell them the real human stories of the people who made up history, it's much more likely that they're going to connect with that. They're not just getting a blip in a paragraph. And here again, I was able to do that because I had the 3 volumes that I wrote. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to spend 2 weeks talking about Abraham Lincoln and all of the things happening all around him. So he was the focal point, but they're also learning all of these things that were happening in our country during that time period. So that information, they remember that information because the setting of the story. So that's really one of the big reasons why children usually like learning my history, is because mm-hmm. it's not boring. It's not just a dry fact with a date and something that they have to remember that has no connection to them at all. They've not made any type of relationship with it. So to remember anything, we all of us, it's a human thing. We have to make a relationship with it. You're never going to remember anything if you don't have something to hook it to that you care about.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And yeah. I love that that's what you've done for the students, because
we don't want to, I mean, yes, they have to have that credit, but we don't want to waste anybody's time.
Right.
And how beautiful it is that they're going to learn the story that they can retell. They will have the unedited history that they can retell and learn from. And they will come out of it having been really taught in a way that makes them love learning. So I love that. And I keep thinking about how Jesus taught with stories. And so you're using that same method that he used to help make sure this is relevant to them or meaningful to them.
Right. I mean, you think about how much we would remember from Jesus's teachings if we took away all the stories and just had bullet points instead. And let's do it even better. Let's add some dates and some abstract numbers to it. And then let's see how much we enjoy it and remember it later, know how to apply it to our lives, right? So, yes, that was really the whole goal, is to create real history that kids could love, that they could relate to, that wasn't just wasting their time. I am very much, and I think people know this about me by now, I am quite literally religiously against wasting our children's time. Because if you think about it, only God knows how much time each person has. And what gives us the right to go wasting the moments of our child's life to do something just to fill the time? Just to fill the time because somebody said somewhere that we need to.
Right.
And I really do believe that, again, we teach our kids. Everything we do teaches our children. And we literally teach them to waste their own time because we don't value their time. We don't value our own time. How much time do we spend scrolling?
Right.
You know, they see us doing that, and it reiterates it over and over. My life is a waste. I can waste my time.
Wow, that will preach, sister.
Yeah, it's convicting.
It is convicting. It is. And I'm glad you're bringing it up. It's something that we can all aspire to do better, and for our own selves, but also those that we're modeling life to, how to live and how to respect your time and steward your life for the Lord.
Exactly.
So at the end of the third book, what are you hoping a student walks away with? If you had a student finish that and meet another homeschool student or go into the next grade, or what are you hoping at the end of it? How are they different?
I want to hear them say, I love history.
Good.
I love history. Let's be honest. These books, they lay a foundation. They open eyes to something bigger than our own lives. They give us some type of connection to the history of our own country. Hopefully, it's the first step in creating a love of learning, an interest in wanting to know more, a respect for the people who worked and died and just gave everything for this country. And I hope they come away with the knowledge, the firm knowledge that God created them to be alive at this time in history, that he could have put them any other time, but he put them now, and he has a plan for them now. And I hope moms come away with that too. I hope moms and parents who read it with their kids, I hope they come away with the firm knowledge that God has had his hand on our country. He's not done with us. And that we are, yes, we are Americans, but we are his people more than anything. We are living here on this earth, but hopefully our residency is not here forever. Hopefully it's heaven, and that's my biggest thing. I want them to love it. I want them to see their connection to it. So,
well, that just makes me want to sell more of them, promote more of them. because I want that. I hated history. I didn't hate it, but I mean, I could have
Didn't enjoy it.
I could have done anything else. And my friends enjoy making fun of me about how little I know about history and geography.
That's terrible.
I know, but it's just the truth. We just all laugh together. When I was in high school, the history teacher, when he thought we were being poor students, misbehaving, he would send us out into the hall, and we would have to back up to the cinder block wall and sit on the third line, which, basically like a squat.
Yeah.
No bench,
That's
like that.
terrible.
Yeah. So it was like love history, talk during history, sit on the third line,
No.
lots of fun.
No.
So thank you for investing in this generation with history people really will absorb and retain and learn from. And I love the fact that you're teaching them to value their place in history, their place in time in this country. And to see, yes, you may be one individual, but here's one individual who did all of these things.
Yes.
And what it looks like for a country to do God's things and not do them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's an unfortunate thing, but yes, it's true. And I don't know if I should mention or not, but I am going to mention it. I'm in the middle of writing a high school American history course. And this one, I am having so much fun. The editing team is like, you've got to stop being so prolific here. We've got to keep the page down. And so I'm like, okay. Okay. But it's so much fun to be able to go more into depth of the reasons why and the really nitty gritty of God's hand and how he guided and protected. And it gives me the goosebumps. It is so good. I'm just like, oh my goodness. I am so excited for this.
That's great news.
Yeah. So excited. But yeah, she's over there giggling at me.
Well, I'm glad you're excited, and everybody can see how excited you are. And now the cat's out of the bag. We're having American History by Angela Odell coming soon to a homeschool near you. So while we're still talking about America's story, I want to talk about the extra resources that we have to help supplement the learning. So let's talk about, we've got timelines, and then we've also got audiobooks. How do you envision that for a family?
Well, the audiobooks are really, they were very highly requested, probably because a lot of the children who use it also listen to my podcast. So we want you to read it to us, this kind of thing. So that's really kind of where that came in, but it's really honestly just a tool, another part of the tool. I remember being that mom with the kids who we got our math and our reading and our writing done today. And I just would be like, that's like the 10th day in a row. We haven't gotten anything else done. I mean, the house is not burned down, so that's good, but nobody's dead. But it really was a really huge gift when we found audiobooks for the things that we wanted to learn. So I was like, an audiobook for this series would be really a perfect companion for those auditory learners and just those tired moms who just are in that stage of life. We're always talking about the stages of life, ones with newborn babies or crazy toddlers or, a young adult children that need their attention more than a toddler does sometimes. And it's like, for whatever stage and whatever need, it's just great to be able to put that in and say, hey, here's your history today. Get your book out and read along.
Right.
It's your reading today. And it just is a nice go along for it. As far as the timeline goes, I love timelines. I am so very thankful that Masterbooks has produced that color option, because in the back of each of the teacher's guides, there's a black and white edition, at least I think in the first volume there is. I'm speaking out of line here, maybe. I can't remember. Anyway, but those color ones are really super nice to be able to add to whatever type of timeline you have, whether you have enough space to have it on the wall, which is great, or if you have to put it in a book, which is fine too. That's what I had to do. But being able to see the sequence and how things go together and what happened in each time period is just really helpful to understand that. So I always recommend timelines.
Great. So this helps the student visualize what they're reading or listening to and put it within a timeline of history so they can see the big picture.
Right. And if they do that enough, it's really interesting the connections you can make when you visually see, oh, that person lived during that time period and this was happening. I never connected those two, that kind of thing.
Great.
So.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for what you've done for all of us with America's Story. And thank you all who are listening for what you've done for your family by using America's Story and sharing it with other homeschool families. Angela, I didn't prepare you for this, but if you could share maybe a few ideas of how you would encourage the parents who are listening and their students how to pray for America.
Absolutely. Well, there's always the first thing is that we're told to do is pray for our leaders. I know sometimes you feel like praying the fire of God down on them. Maybe we should. But praying for our leaders, also praying for our Christian brothers and sisters across the country. Let me preface this a little bit. It is so easy. It is so easy to get stuck in the negative of what's going on because bad news sells better than good news. So the bad news is what you hear, and that can be what we focus on. So my encouragement is to lift your eyes to the God of the universe who knows everything about everyone at all times. He knows what's going on. So if we keep our eyes looking at what's going on around us, most of the time we end up fighting fear and anxiety. The way to turn that off is to pray Psalm 23 over yourself first and your family. Now I'm talking to the parents here. Pray that over yourself. It turns off that anxiety. There is a song, and I don't remember who, Leanna Crawford. She sings a song about Psalm 23 getting rid of anxiety, which is amazing.
I love that song.
I do too. And it's like, I was like, oh my goodness, she's got my thing here, because that's what I do. And I'll just pray it over myself, and I'm feeling anxious about the thought of my grandchildren being raised in this world. I start going, and so I'm like, nope, Psalm 23 over myself, over my grandkids, over my country. And I just keep getting my circle bigger. That's great. I just keep praying. I keep your eyes on Jesus, because he never, ever changes. But also on the practical side of that, get together with your kids and literally pray for things that they are seeing and that they are concerned about, because our children notice things. They see things. They are not oblivious to our crazy, angsty things that are going on in our world and in our country. They're not blind and they are not dumb. They know what's going on. They know something is not right. So pray for, and use your wisdom. Ask God, when is the right time? But gather your children. Our children are the future warriors of the Christian warriors of our world and our country. So there is no time like the present to start training for that prayer. And, they can pray for that God will convict and guide people who, and like I said, use your own wisdom on this, and God's wisdom, but your own children. But even kids that you may think are too young, they are aware. If they are aware of the abortion industry, if they're aware of it, they're old enough to pray for it.
There you
Period.
go. Yeah.
Period. If they're old enough to know about it, they're old enough to pray about it. And teach them to pray that God will save those babies, that will save those mothers, that will intervene in the lawmakers that say that this is okay. Pray. So there are so many. This is a big passion, so thank you for asking me about it.
Sure.
There are so many ways that we can be frontline warriors, prayer warriors for the cultural issues of our country and our world. I am on a prayer list for it's a pregnancy center in cities in Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And so I get multiple texts a day. Pray for this girl. They change names. Pray for this girl that she's having an ultrasound. She's abortion determined. Pray that this ultrasound will change her heart. I stop. I pray for that girl, and I text back P when I've prayed. So I have been on that for 3 years, and I get dozens a week. Dozens. Every time that pregnancy center is open, I get flooded with those. But it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I could be talking to you. If I see it's come up, I will breathe a prayer over that girl and pray God save that child's life.
Yes.
But unless we take these things seriously, our kids are never going to take it seriously. And if we don't take it seriously, if we don't pray about things, if we don't pull them into the prayers with us, then they have the culture and the enemy constantly saying, then it must not be that big of a deal.
Right.
If we're not praying, if we're not battling, we're not doing the things that we are called to do as Christians, shining the light in that darkness, then over and over and over, we're teaching our kids yet again, this really isn't as big a deal as I'm making it out to be, or I say it is on social media. So it is up to us. It is up to us to be that light, not just say we are, but to be that light.
And not hide it under a bushel like he talks about.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all of those ideas on how to pray, how to get together with your children and pray about anything that they're aware of. If they're aware of it, they're able to pray about it. That's brilliant wisdom. Thank you for teaching this generation American history, the true history, and in a way that will cause them to like history, love history, engage in it. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate all of you being here on the podcast today with me and Angela. Angela is such a great guest. We have had so many chats like this, and I feel like I know her even though we've never met in person.